Hi, Jack. My name's Keith. I am a student in the Masters of Social Work program at Liberty University. And I understand that when you signed up for online counseling, you had access to this big old packet of information that you filled out and sent in. And it is my job today to talk to you about a very specific part of this that is very important to you and very important to us. It's something called confidentiality. Confidentiality is a fancy term for saying private. When you come on the screen and you meet for your counseling sessions, you expect, and rightly so, for those communications to be private. To be private when we're talking and to stay private. And so in that way, we as counselors are what you would consider professional secret keepers. But there are a couple of things that if they transpire during a session, we are required by law to get some help with. So I just wanted to go over those briefly with you to make sure that we understand, because I don't want anything to happen during these times that would be a surprise to you. So the first thing I want you to know is that if you have sessions with me, I'm an intern, and so I will be heavily supervised. My supervisor would have access to my notes, and we would discuss sessions frequently to make sure that I am giving you the best care possible and that you are the number one thing that's important. But being as that's my supervisor, he has the same exact rules of confidentiality that I do. But I want you to know, if I say during a session, yeah, I talked to my supervisor, that's perfectly fine because he and I are on the same rules. The second thing I would like to tell you about is that I am what's considered a mandatory reporter. So if during the course of our conversation, I become aware of the abuse of a child or an elderly person or somebody that is not fully within their grasp of reality, I may have to get some other people involved in that. I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less. The second thing is what we call a call to protect, a duty to protect. And what that means is if during our conversation it becomes apparent to me that you are serious about hurting yourself in some way, then I would be required by law to pull somebody in to help us out. And that's one of the reasons why when we do the online, we know exactly where the other side of the screen leads. That's why we have an emergency contact, because we know that sometimes our sessions can get really intense and we want to make sure that you're safe. That makes sense, right? We want to make sure you're safe. The third thing is, let me get to it because I don't want to make a mistake, is called a duty to report. So, if during our conversations, as I've said before, during the conversations that we have in here, it becomes apparent that you mean to cause harm, serious harm, to somebody that you have named or that you have described in such a way as I have a pretty good idea who they are, I would have a duty to get other people involved and to make sure that person is safe. And that makes sense, right? I mean, that's okay. The last thing that is in with those very few reasons why we would violate your confidentiality is that if a court subpoenas legal documents, not just asks, but subpoenas our records of our time together, I would be required to give exactly what they've subpoenaed. We would not give anything extra. And I would try and keep as much of our time private as private. But if it's a court order, then they would get access to the notes that I have taken. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm glad we got through all that stuff. It's pretty heavy duty. But I did want you to know exactly what we're looking at so that there's no surprises down the road. All right, hey, thanks for talking.